Cinnamon, episode
Ooh, you dropped a
75.
little bass.
Yeah,
Cinnamon.
hit him with a this is the 3/4 century. You gotta start off right. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny when you asked me right before we began recording, you were like, "Let's get it on," and of course, because I've been in a Kevin Smith frame of mind, all I could think of was Jay from I think Zach and Miri. Let us
Let's
fuck, and then
fuck.
you threw that vocal intonation in there, and it's like, ooh, he read my mind just in a very different.
Yes, man, we are back with another episode of the Cinnamon. It has been a couple of weeks, I imagine, since the last one, man. It is I, one of the hosts of this here bit of business, is me, your boy C, and I'm joined as always by my man, the ever so loquacious Mr. Douglas Doug Fresh Davidson. How are you doing today, sir? Looking
Uh,
very mad scientist today.
it's been a day. It's been a day. I'm grayer and whiter than normal. I
That's
think
hard
that's
to
what
do.
happened to Gandalf. He was dealing with these kid-like hobbitses,
And it
fell
said,
into a fucking
peace, I'm out.
and he went from gray to white because that's what happens when you're stressed out all the goddamn time.
That
I'm
Balrog
getting
took a couple of years off his life, man.
I'm getting Tolkien more and more every year. Um, I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in. I am delighted to be here as always, and trying to think of other things to say because you described me as loquacious, and that sounded like an invitation or a threat. I'm not sure which.
I'm not sure that's a threat by any means, but it is definitely.
Threatening me with a good time.
Oh, there it is. Definitely a, I would say, accurate, sir. You're good at talking about films. And speaking of which, it has, like I said up top, it's been in a couple weeks since we last spoke with each other. What, pray tell, have you seen recently since we last engaged in podcast battle?
Podcast battle. I would lose that so fast.
I don't disagree.
You can't talk your way out of that one, Davidson. Um, I'm not going to get into all of them because legitimately I have seen a lot of stuff. I think I was in the middle of watching, I think I was participating in Fantastic Fest during the last recording. I ended up watching about 6 or 7 films, some of which I'd seen before, some after. So I would just say that what I was able to see at Fantastic Fest reminds me of exactly why I like attending Fantastic Fest.
Hmm.
They have so many eclectic options, often representative of international cinema, often not stuff that you would necessarily find at your local cinema. And so that's one of the best reasons why I like attending that. There was some stuff like Project Wolf Hunting, which I didn't see myself, got released by Well Go USA,
Well, no.
is in select theaters right now. Uh, Friend of the show, Thomas Manning, he checked that out. And based on his description, I will not be watching it, which is a bummer because it looked really cool, but it's
Mm.
apparently very gory. So I won't be doing that. And then there was Vesper, which I forget if I talked about. I did not talk about on the show, released by IFC Films. But then there's stuff like Unidentified by writer director June Kuhn, which is a film, I believe, set in Korea based on the little bit of clues that we get throughout the film that is about UFOs that showed up all around the world at the same time in 1993. And then, so 29 years later, there's a rumor that there are aliens living among us. Spaceships are still up there. And so it's one vignette after another dealing with different issues of xenophobia, of
Hmm.
what it means to be human, all of the rejection of self, acceptance of self, all of these different things. It's really, really beautiful. And if you get the chance to see it, I recommend checking it out. Like any other anthology, there's some sequences that are better than others, but there are two dance sequences that were just one was joyously moving and one was just unbelievably captivating. So if you get the chance to check that out, Unidentified by Jude Kuhn. The rest of the films that I covered, all the ones I covered, all those reviews are live now. You can find those on Elements of Madness. One other one I'd want to recommend is an anthology film called Give Me an A. It was produced by one individual and then gathered 15 directors who either wrote, co-wrote, or just directed people's short films inspired by the repeal of Roe v. Wade. I dropped a spoiler-free review of it in the Paprika group, so you can check it out there or on Elements of Madness. But it's a combination. The short films range from horror, thriller, comedy, body horror, science fiction, and just different ways in which the repeal currently impacts people or
Hmm.
could, from the far reaches of government control to going back to what it was like before Roe v. Wade. And in fact, I saw a couple of actors pop up that I got super excited when they appeared, and I won't spoil it, simply because I enjoy them so much and what they brought to their work. So, highly recommend that. In lighter fare, there are three films, probably around the time this gets released, will either be available or already are. There's a 4K release of Night of the Living Dead that came out from Criterion. This is a newer version of the 2018 February Blu-ray release that they did. For one, the 4K, it's the same 4K transfer just on a 4K disc.
Yeah.
So if you had that 2018 release, that is a 4K restoration on a Blu-ray. The difference here is that you just have more room on the disc, so it's less compressed, what have you. So you get that full 4K with this restoration. The bonus features are the same. There's nothing new in that regard, but a lot of people were really bummed by the digipack packaging that the 2018 release had. It was more cardboard, it wasn't as well protected. The 4K edition has the more common plastic covering that you get, particularly for a lot of Criterions. And it's got the 4K disc and two Blu-ray discs, so you get the movie bonus features. And like I said, everything that came with the 2018 release. I've checked this out. Uh, Considering I upgraded from a DVD, is great. The picture, the detail, everything is really wonderful. The scene when Barbara, no, not Barbara, Ben, right, is going through the house and he finds the corpse on the steps. You really get to see a lot more of the detail of that. Now, of course, there are also the other side of that where you get some of the zombies and you can go, oh, those are prosthetics.
Yeah.
Like there's some
Yeah.
things that don't hold up as well with the greater definition, but if you didn't have it, would recommend. Speaking of zombies, we're going to jump over to a guy named Sean and a different sci-fi adventure, Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon. This is
Mm.
an animated movie from your Wallace and Gromit universe. Came available on Netflix in, I think, also February of 2020. Farmageddon is getting a physical release in North America for the first time from Shout Factory. This is a delightful silent film. If you've never checked it out, I mean, characters make noise, but they don't have dialogue in the traditional sense. It is hilarious. It is just so perfectly timed with the slapstick, and the bonus features really give you a sense of what went into making it. So if you are a fan of claymation, if you have checked out Shaun the Sheep, if you've seen Farmageddon on Netflix and want to own it, now's your opportunity. It drops on the 18th. And then, of course, I had to mention this one. I was talking to Daryl about it before we started recording. Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank from Paramount. It is streaming on Paramount Plus now, I think, and has been on digital since like the 16th of August. But it's coming on home video. If you didn't check it out, it's Blazing Saddles for kids. So it's feudal Japan instead of the Old West. It's exactly what it sounds like. It knows exactly what kind of movie it is. I watched it with Connor. He loved it, which means it did exactly what it set out to do. In my case, it was definitely aimed at kids. The jokes were so self-referential for the adults that it was eye-rolling bad,
Mm. Hmm.
because it's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
It's a Mel Brooks thing. Okay, fine, we get it. And certainly, if you're familiar with Blazing Saddles, the changes that they make are not necessarily for me spot on. I, for example, really like in Blazing Saddles how they defeat Mongo by making the candygram and having it blow up in his face.
Candy Grandpa Mango.
And the joke being that the trickiest thing that they did was make the candygram because the candygram didn't exist at that time
Bitch, if it
historically.
was inventing the candygram, they probably wouldn't even give me credit for it.
Exactly. So the problem I have, and Crystal did as well, we both took issue with this, is that the way that they defeat Sumo in this movie, a giant cat sent to fight them and get them out of town, is they use a food allergy against him. He survives, but it's the fact that it's a kids movie and they're using a food allergy. It's one of those things where it might seem funny, but you might end up sending the wrong message, considering our eldest has a tendency to watch prank videos on YouTube and then has tried to pull pranks at home, all of which backfired in his face because they were totally inappropriate.
Lovely.
The idea of having a child's film that says, hey, let's defeat this person by using their health against them, it sends the wrong message.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not funny in the way that you would want it to be. So that there were some issues like that, but all in all, it's exactly what you expect. A movie called Paws of Fury, which is taking its name from a Chinese movie and setting it in feudal Japan. Like, I mean, come on. But there you go. That's more or less what I've been watching, and I tried to keep it brief. I went fast.
You did. You did. You trailblazed all the way through that, sir.
I'm gonna go take a nap.
I watched a couple of things as well. I watched God's Creatures, A24 joint that came out earlier this month, maybe about actually no, at the very end of September. A psychological drama about a small coastal Irish town, and a kid comes back to the family who's been away in Australia for years. We've learned, and of course, mother's ecstatic to have him back in the fold. And then an allegation is made against this kid, and the mother's first instinct, when questioned by the police, is to lie to protect her son, and the ramifications of that lie. When this is a very small town, everyone knows what kind of person this kid is, and the fallout. It's all about the fallout. This movie is excellently paced. We get a great look at the relationship between mother and son and how tight that bond is, or how tight it seems, or he's more just mooching than anything else. And then you just see the slow unraveling of that relationship as she further and further comes to grips with exactly what she's done, and all that kind of good stuff. Great, wonderfully acted movie, directed by Sayla Davis and Anna Rose Holmer. Emily Watson is in this movie. Was just announced for Dune, HBO's Dune TV show. She's gonna be up in there. So great having Paul Mescal as well, who's coming up in the ranks as well. Very good movie, a nice little psychological drama there. And yeah, it's the one thing that's weird about it is the accuser, you don't get a whole lot of focus on. Just disappears for large swaths of the movie, which I found weird, but the focus is on the relationship between the mother and son and how the whole thing unravels. All right, not a bad joint, not a bad joint. If you can see it, see it. If not, don't be pressed to get out there and watch it. It's a 3 of 5. I do blues what I get right down the middle. I also saw Something in the Dark, the Benson and Moorhead joint. Yes, saw that.
Oh, so excuse me. So what'd you think?
It's a good movie, man. I folks with Benson and Moorhead. I've enjoyed everything that they've done. This one, you can tell it's kind of a pandemic-ish movie. There's a grand total of about 2 people in this movie. Those 2 people are Benson and Moorhead, and of course, one of their ex-husbands as well.
You know that the other folks in the movie are A, people, and B, they shot part of it while working on Moon Knight.
I 100% believe that.
Yeah, the one of the people that shows up in the movie for like that, because I don't want to give anything away, is the writer and director, or at least the director of Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, I did not know that. Yeah, this is a it's labeled as a science fiction comedy. I didn't really find anything funny about it, which is weird. I thought it was just a straight science fiction movie. It's and the science fiction is really just the thin veneer to tell a story about these two incredibly odd opposite people and how they come together after a an unexplainable science fiction event. They decide that they want to try to capture it, much like us, and then make a documentary on the capturing of said thing. Um, as the movie progresses, we see the deconstruction of both of these dudes and kind of who they are really are not who they initially present themselves to be to each other. And that is the most fascinating part is kind of seeing their friendship devolve at the very end as more and more truths are unveiled. It is delightful, man. I really fucks heavy with this movie. I really, really dug the fuck out of it. It's pretty quick joint. Oh, it's 116, so just shy of 2 hours. I
It feels
enjoyed it.
quick.
It feels quick,
Feels quick.
man. I mean, like the effects are minimal. This is really just focused on character and the domineering presence of one, the kind of um, go along with the easy nature of the other, and how that kind of poisons the whole friendship towards the end. Excellently done. What you got to say about this, sir?
It was my number one movie of the year until I watched RRR. I was lucky enough to see it at Sundance, which I covered remotely. There are elements of this movie when I tell you I haven't stopped thinking about. I mean it. If I had been able to watch it again, um, I would have, but there was just no time, and the access window is very different for a festival like Sundance than other festivals that I've covered, where press has a little bit more flexibility remotely to watch stuff. Um, it is a movie that is exactly what it tells you it is, and that often
Yes.
changes from moment to moment. And I love how, and it's sort of fitting you bring this up, given the topic of today's um
Topic.
topic of today's show. The word was show I was
Oh,
looking for.
okay, okay.
uh is
Allow
how
myself to introduce myself.
it references at least the endless.
Yeah.
And having not yet, I have Resolution in spring but haven't watched them yet. I want to go watch them to see if there are references to those as well. I mean, with Resolution, if I remember correctly, is referenced in the endless, so I guess technically Resolution and endless are part of something in the dark, something
Yeah.
in the dirt, excuse me. But it comes out, I think, wide in theaters in November, so you must have seen it, what, the Charlotte Film Festival?
It was the opening kickoff of the Charlotte Film Festival.
Did you sit in
So
our seat?
I did not sit in their seat because I didn't realize I was, and yeah, I walked in and I was like, I don't know which, because there's more than one theater. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know which theater our seat is in. And it's not like, it's, excuse me, sir, get up so I can just allow, all right, no, you're good. You can sit down. You over there, get up.
No,
Um,
I think it's pretty easy. You walk in, see people sitting. Excuse me, could you please stand up? There's a prize. If you could tell me who's sitting in the cinnamon seat. You? Perfect. The
the
prize
prize
is
is an
get the fuck
uppercut.
out.
That occurred to me as I was walking in. I was like, I'll have to catch a different time. Old friend of the show, Chris Baker, was in there, so it was fun times had by
He was in
all.
our seat.
Now he was not in their seats; he was just in the theater.
What'd you think of the Independent Picture House?
I dig that place, man. I really dig that place. It's got a nice groovy feel to it. It's still kind of got that new car smell about it. I like the setup of the whole thing. It's really dope in there. You have not been yet, have you?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I fucks heavy with it. And if memory serves, later on this month they're showing Evil Dead 2 back to back. So
Yep.
I will be attending that as well. Looking forward to that. So yeah, fun time. I also saw the Banshees of Inisherin. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh
Did
boy.
Martin McDonough deliver one more time?
Martin McDonough. I don't. He needs therapy, man.
This could be it.
It's could be having film as his therapy. Film therapy, the new podcast on podcast. It's yet again much like his previous works. Like like in Bruges. I think he also did The Guard with Brendan Gleeson. I think that was a McDonough joint. Not 100% certain.
No, no, no. It may be a McDonough joint. The question is which one, because it's him and his brother, and they each do it. Martin is, I believe, Seven Psychopaths.
Seven
I
Psychopaths
know
is
he
smart.
did Three Billboards.
Oh, wait a minute. Those two McDonoughs are related?
They're brothers.
I had no idea. I was just like, huh. So no, I think it was the other McDonough. Yeah. Yeah. Three Billboards, Seven Psychopaths, and Bruce Six Shooter. That's it. That's no, he was an executive producer on The Guard, the other McDonough. Michael McDonough, for all of you
Yep.
wondering out there. But Martin, yeah, he's back with yet another bleak outing. Um,
I need to give In Bruges another shot. You get to do your thing in a second. I've seen it once and I wanted to like it. And for some reason, I think from the trailer it was sold as a comedy, but it ended up being much more dramatic and darker. So the expectation ruined it for me. I need to
mm, Speaking of
next.
which, I will bring that up here in a second with another movie
Okay,
that just came out.
but I need to give In Bruges another shot because I love the cast. I love the
Yes,
cast.
yes.
And Seven Psychopaths and Three Billboards is fucking fantastic. So
I thought Seven Psychopaths is okay. I really do like Three Billboards. To me, I think of his whole filmography, Seven Psychopaths is the weakest. But if you're looking for something that's closest to what he's done previously, it would be In Bruges that I would
okay,
compare to this. It's
right on.
dark, bleak, sparse. Yet another Irish movie set on the coast. So that was the two movies in the span of a couple of weeks. I was fucking struggling trying to figure out what was going on in these movies. I did not have the luxury of rewinding this movie though, like I did with God's Creatures. It's about two well-known friends within this small town, and one of them, Brendan Gleeson's character, just decides he wants to stop being
Feck off.
Colin Farrell's character's friend. And really, the focus of this movie is watching how badly this affects Colin Farrell's character. It is maybe the best I've ever seen Colin Farrell. Um, and it is an overwhelming blanket of sadness over this movie. Um, Brendan Gleeson does a good job, but Colin Farrell really just sells the hopelessness and the desperation of losing his best friend for reasons he can't quite understand or wrap his head around. It starts there, and then things systematically get stripped away from him that he loves. It is horribly depressing, and it sits, I think, at number 4 or 5 for my favorite movie of the year so far. It is great. For those of you who get easily weepy, there's some people I know that a stiff breeze will make them cry. So if that is you, make sure you come with a box of tissues if you watch this movie, because man, it's well directed, well crafted. It moves. It's great, man. I love that movie.
I very much would like to see it. I was bummed. I was booked when it screened last night, and so there was just literally nothing I could do um, to try and make that one work. And it's one of my anticipated movies of the year, so I'm pretty pissed about it. But at the same time, I had an experience where one of my closest friends just suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth once I got engaged, and he was really close with Crystal, so we were both like, "What the fuck?" And yeah, so I'm nervous about seeing Banshee, but at the same time, it's this cast with this writer director. I can't not see it.
Yeah, you damn straight you cannot see it, and there was all of 3 of us in the theater.
Oh,
Yeah. So it made for a wild experience, man. And the one I will touch on briefly that I talked about, that mentioned as far as expectations go, is Empire of Light, man. That new Sam Mendes and Deacon's joint. We are sold, I would say, a false bag of goods with this movie. With the
interesting.
trailer that we have gotten, because I think there's only one trailer out
Yeah,
so
it's a
far.
teaser though.
Yeah, about a minute and a half, not quite 2 minutes. So yeah, I guess it will fall. A heavy teaser like trailer somewhere in there. So that was what I would put it at. And of course, that means we will get at least another full trailer. I doubt we'll get another anything besides that, but we're due for at least one more full trailer in which they might reveal more of what's going on. But based off of the teaser we've gotten so far, the film we get is not quite what they are marketing it as of the time of this recording. The time of this recording it's you think you're getting 20 years into the game now, auteur Sam Mendes and Degas, and their ode to film. This is our love letter to cinema, and it's kind of that, and there's a whole lot of not that. A lot of jarring, out of the blue tonal shifts. Um, a lot of him trying to touch on a couple of different topics, but never really actually saying anything about them. And it seems like the story might have kind of gotten away because Mendez wrote and directed and produced this. It seems like the story might have gotten away if they had focused. If they had focused just on, we want to make, for lack of a better phrase, a companion to Cinema Paradiso, which I think a lot of people say that is like the love letter to film. Which I think some people are kind of thinking that's what this was going to be. If they had just stuck with that theme, then yes, they could have pulled it off because those scenes are quite good. It's the other stuff in the movie that doesn't quite work, unfortunately. Performances are wildly good. Olivia Colman's never going to be bad in a movie.
I wasn't a big fan of The Lost Daughter, but she was still really good in that.
That's my thoughts as well. I wasn't a fan of 99% of The Lost Daughter. But the 1% I was a fan of was Olivia Colman and my girl who can do no wrong, Jessie motherfucking Buckley. Yeah, the performances across the board are great. It's just the story itself is weak, I think. But we got till December, I think, is when that movie comes out. So plenty of time for a trailer to drop to give you a more rounded idea of what this movie is about. There you go. There you go. That's what we've seen recently, sir. What's the big old topic for today?
Today's topic, I cannot take credit for. This was inspired by Crystal. I just loved the opportunity that this would bring up. The topic for today is shared universes and non-connected films and franchises. So it's like how E.T. and Star Wars literally exist in the same universe because the family or the species that is E.T. appears in the prequels.
Yeah,
right?
Episode 1 there.
Yeah, so this would apply to any movie where we've ever seen a marquee and a movie title has been on it. So in the new Spirit Halloween, Fright Night has happened in Spirit Halloween, which means that those actors exist. And so it created this sort of avalanche of ideas of what are movies that exist within other non-canonical movies. And I thought it would be a little nutty to go with that. And if it weren't for the fact that I am terrified to list out some, in that there's one here which I'm curious will be on your list or not, considering how you feel about one of the films in this particular universe. I will not name it. However, I will name one as an example that had me being like, what the fuck is going on right now? Hocus Pocus, the movie, exists as a movie within Hocus Pocus 2.
I have not watched Hocus Pocus 2. That is absolutely ridiculous.
I forget what was happening because I got taken so out of what it was. But someone is watching the Penny Marshall, Gary Marshall scene of Hocus Pocus on their television. And that was their way of getting these two into the sequel. Except it creates this thing of, is Hocus Pocus the movie happening within, or is it a movie someone made about what happened all those years ago, and thus the legend is reborn of the Sanderson sisters? So that was the kind of nonsense that went along with this. Would you like to go first with your first universe collision, or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first because this is a weird ass topic.
I know, it's so much fun.
It's a weird ass topic. Mine. I got two that kind of overlap, I guess I'll say. Sure. And I'll get those two out of the way. The first one is the first one that came to my head when I reconfirmed with you what was going on is one that you mentioned. I was like, okay, so that lets me know I'm on the right track. Mallrats in Captain Marvel.
God damn it.
First.
It's okay. I got backup.
Okay.
But yes, go on.
It's 1995. This is which is when Captain Marvel takes place. Mallrats 1996, the sophomore feature of Kevin Smith. And there comes a time, well, of course, for those of you who know Mallrats, you know Stan Lee pops up in there. Kevin Smith, huge comic book.
Excelsior.
Yeah. He's got his little. He's like the old man that dispenses wisdom that kind of gives that last third act kick in the pants to your slacker character. And yeah, that's the extent of Stan Lee. He's not in the movie all that much, but they give him like two decent key scenes. Of course, Stan Lee would go on to become a staple of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies while he was alive, including Captain Marvel, which is set the year before Mallrats, which you would think they are maybe in pre-production, or maybe they're about to go into production. They might already be in production at this point. And on a bus, we see Carol Danvers bump into the Stan Lee character as Stan Lee is preparing for his day or two on set for Mallrats. He's going over the Mallrats script, and we get that "trust me, true believer" that he's rehearsing to himself over and over again as we see Captain Marvel kind of stop. They give each other I think that might be one of the best Stan Lee cameos. There's
Yeah, she
two.
she just I think moves the I think she moves his script down. He looks up at her. She just sort of nods at him.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
with that, the exception of Iron Man, twice he mistakes him for Hugh Hef and Larry. Uh,
Tony Stank.
well, Stan
Oh,
misrepresents
oh,
him as
oh,
Tony
oh,
Stark.
oh,
He
oh, okay.
misrepresents Stan as
Yes.
Hugh Hef and
Hugh
Larry
Hefner, Larry King.
Larry King. I was like, Larry Cable Guy. No, not Larry Cable Guy. And then from there, most of them is just like stand in the background and doing things. He doesn't really interact much. It had been a while, and this was like a straight nod and wink. And it was one of the more wholesome Stan Lee cameos, I think, in the MCU. And it had that just that extra layer of it's going to come, but then it's got that if you know factor to it that I love so much.
Yeah, I would say it's up there with the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 confirmation that he is in fact an agent of the Watchers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that was possibly the greatest gift to all of us at that point, because now that we know that there's a multiverse, yeah, the Watchers are everywhere.
Now that we've seen a Watcher,
Exactly.
we've got a whole show based around a Watcher.
But
We know that the Watchers are there. That's one of my favorites of the selection of mine that I have.
I will say though that with She-Hulk, I'm now so worried about the Stan Lee that's in Incredible Hulk, because he a Hulk now?
Yeah, he drank
He drank it.
the fizzy lifting drink or whatever it is that they had
Put him
for
in the
him.
hospital. Is he a Hulk? So
It brings up the question of would it be inert because there's no familial connection there. Did she hope because there's actually a
they
some chain
share
of
the
DNA
DNA.
sequencing somewhere way up the tree, but it'll probably never be mentioned again. So
That's true.
yeah. What you got?
Well, real quick before I do my first, because it makes me giggle, and you stole this one from me. I also love the fact that if Mallrats exists within Captain Marvel, and that means we follow Kevin Smith with the making of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
We get all the way to Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, in which Kevin Smith is playing Silent Bob, but he's also playing Kevin Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it turns into this Russian doll issue of where's reality and where's not reality if Jay and Bob is being made in Mallrats, but Kevin Smith made Mallrats. So are Jay and Bob in the MCU as actual Jay and Bob, or
is Kevin Smith in the MCU as Kevin Smith?
Like, there
but if
suddenly
Kevin Smith
becomes
is in
this
the
whole
MCU as Kevin Smith, that means that Kevin Smith made Clerks. I
yes,
guess. Sure.
yes.
Sure.
This is where it's very complicated, because it means that if Kevin Smith is making Mallrats, Kevin Smith made Clerks to make Clerks 2, Clerks 3, all of those things. But there's a movie in which Kevin Smith is also making a movie that we're watching in which he plays himself. Is he playing himself, or is it a movie? Is it real? All of a sudden, there's just this
Is it
whole
live? Is it
thing.
Memorex? We may never know.
Well played.
What is your
Okay.
first pick, sir?
Well played, clerk. Um,
Well
my first
played, clerks.
my first one because it is simple. It is um a throwaway line that is also very quotable uh in terms of referencing the film, but also giving you everything you need to know about the character. I'm gonna go with Tango and Cash and Rambo because Sylvester Stallone at the beginning of the movie playing Cash, a by the book officer, ends up shooting a tank that everybody thinks is gasoline. He knows it has drugs in it. And somebody offhandedly goes, "Oh, he thinks he's Rambo." To which Cash responds, "Rambo is a pussy," and then fires the gun. I'm pretty sure he plays Cash. Um, I'll double check that in a minute. But it's just the simple fact that it's a humorous line because it's Sylvester Stallone picking on his own character
Mhm.
and picking on that legacy. But it also means that this Sylvester Stallone looking motherfucker has gone to the theater and seen Rambo.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I like that. Good call, sir. I've only seen Tango.
You're not muted. It's a new mic and everything.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, weird. It just dropped out for a second. That's weird.
Yeah, that was very strange. You were responding about Tango and Cash, and then you were gone.
I was so excited to go watch Tango and Cash.
It's so good.
Yeah, I'm due
It
for
is
a
still very
rewatch.
quotable.
My second one continues in the same vein of the one I just had. Also, actually, still tying back to the
Real quick, I was incorrect. He was Tango.
he's
He is
Tango.
Ray
Okay,
Tango. Russell is Cash.
there
That
you
was my
go.
mistake.
Mine still exists in the Viewers universe. My second pick, and it is of
Ooh.
course the iconic Empire Strikes Back conversation in Clerks.
Wait. Oh, okay. Continue.
Yes, playing, of course, with the greatest song in the background, Chewbacca. What a Wookiee! So yes, these characters have watched Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back many and many and many a times, um, and it's just one of those. What other movies? So we know they're Star Wars fans. It begs the question of what other movies of ours that exist in our world would they also be fans of? Obviously, Elias and Clerks 2, massive Lord of the Rings fan, and it becomes
Yeah.
the Battle of the Trilogies and whatnot. But yeah, always when people talk about Clerks, that's almost always the conversation that is referenced and brought up. Hell, they brought it up in Clerks 3. Well, then again, they just bring up all of Clerks and Clerks 3. But yeah, that is my second pick. The first time watching the movie, that conversation, and I was like, oh, this writer is a little bit different than any other movie I've seen. Like I felt, quote unquote, I felt seen
Mm-hmm.
watching that movie. Like, oh, his peoples have the same conversations that me and my peoples have about the exact same things, the exact same subject matter.
Yeah, it ended up being one of the better scenes. And personally, I'm a big fan of Clerks too. But it's one of the better scenes in that movie is when Randall and Elias are having the argument
The
about
Battle of the
there is only
Trilogies.
one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Eh,
only return. Yeah, and it is
the
of
only
the
return.
of
Ain't
the
it a king?
Jedi.
It's of the
Yeah,
Jedi. I God, those fucking movies.
those movies.
Ah, which for those of you that haven't seen Clerks 3, available on digital October 14th, Friday, October 14th, and coming to home video in December.
Boom, done and done. Can add it to my collection right next to Clerks 2 and 1. What is your second choice, sir?
All right. My second one is not of the Kevin Smith variety,
Hmm?
though it is indie. I would definitely describe it
Indiana
as
Jones, yes.
no,
Oh,
no,
okay, never mind.
no. indie in the sense of, even though it got picked up by a big distributor, it was made with an indie sensibility. And that's the 2001 Robert Rodriguez Spy Kids
Mm.
and its relationship to the 2010 Robert Rodriguez movie, Machete.
I was like Machete. No, I was like Once Upon a Time in Mexico. No, that doesn't make sense.
No,
Yeah, Machete.
Machete.
Machete,
Because
man.
the first time we meet Machete is in Spy Kids.
Hmm.
It's his stuff that everybody is using. He is Uncle Machete. And this
Yeah,
means
yeah.
so all the Spy Kids movies in which his stuff appears, having met Danny Trejo, who is Machete. So now that we know that he is this absolute badass Mexican officer with Machete, Machete kills, and then who knows if we'll get Machete in space.
We're never getting Machete in space. No, it's never happening. Our
Um,
trailers all we ever get.
it means that in this super spy badass world, there's also Spy Kids, which means that there were giant fucking thumbs running around years before the American president tried to frame Machete for something else, right? Oh no, excuse me, it was the assassination of a Texas senator that they were trying to frame him for. That means sometime before that, giant thumbs were running around and trying to beat people. Like the ridiculousness of everything that happened in the Spy Kids movies happened in a world in which Machete exists. It's fucked up. I love it.
Fucked up.
I
It's
love
fucked
it.
up.
It's fun. I love it. Nobody talks about it in the Grindhouse movies. Where were the giant thumb people?
Nobody talks about it in Machete either, I guess, really.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody talks about it in Machete. Where are
Nobody
the
talks
giant
about
thumb
Machete.
people? Did you build them? No, he didn't build them.
I have not watched Spy Kids since it first came out. And that was what? We're going on 20-ish?
Last
Somewhere
time I
around
watched it was May 23rd of 2020. Showed it to my almost 5-year-old.
there. Right on.
That
Right
movie
on.
rules. And apparently, I discovered this recently. The actor who played Junie, Daryl Sabara, he's married to the musician that did All About That Bass.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, they're apparently very active on TikTok. They pop up from time to time. And apparently they have toilet seats next to each other so they can poop together. But that's a whole other
that
rabbit
was
hole.
that's neither here nor there.
I'm just saying.
Neither
It's
here
apparently
nor there.
something they have. When you have Spy Kids money, you can do that kind of stuff.
It's funny. My number one. I just stuck with the theme of movies popping up in other movies.
Okay.
My number one is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, in which we see a fake headstone for one Nicholas J. Fury and a certain Bible quote on that fake headstone from Ezekiel 25:17. I do believe it is the path of the righteous man, which, as we know, is not an actual biblical verse, which means in the universe of the MCU, the Pulp Fiction exists, or one would think that Pulp Fiction exists. And this Jules looking motherfucker is running around with an eye patch on. Or Nicholas Fury was watching that movie like, this motherfucker looks a whole lot like me, doesn't he? The only thing we need to complete this is to just give John Travolta a bit part somewhere in the MCU for it to all come to fruition. But that is my third pick, is the fact that I'm going to assume all of our Avengers, maybe not Captain America, has sat down and watched Pulp Fiction.
I'm sure if Sam mentioned it, he'd add it to the list.
Do you think that's, you know what? I bet you that is one that Sam would mention. That's on page 2 of his little book that you don't see. Or actually, that's page 1, because he's like, he pulled him out the eyes. He's like, you've been asleep for nearly 70 years, Cap. Watch Pulp Fiction.
Probably not at the top of the list, considering some of the other recommendations. But that's a good pull, and I think that will. I literally have a list here of movies that overlap, movies that reference. I
Hmm.
just watched Scream 2, so the fact that there's a scene in the movie, it's set in college, and when we meet some of our principal characters, they're in a film class, so they're referencing all of these sequels, which means they all exist. But also in Scream 1, there's that too. I was sort of wondering if you were going to bring up Your Name and Weathering with You, because
Ah, characters.
the end of Weathering with You is around the time of everything. Excuse me. Weathering with You takes place primarily around that
The
time of the
end,
end of
right
Weathering
before.
with You.
Yeah.
And we actually, the end of Weathering with You, if I remember right, it takes place literally right before the two meet as
Hmm.
adults in Your Name.
Yes.
So I was surprised you didn't bring that up.
That's a nice, let's throw it out. There's a nice double feature for people to watch there.
Oh, yeah. I prefer Your Name. I have some issues with Weathering with You in the way that the ending goes, but they're both beautiful.
Hmm.
And this creator, I think, has a new film coming out
Yes, he does.
next month in Japan. So I'm hoping it'll get picked up so we can see it here. But my last one, since
Well,
you
go if you're
decided,
listening.
so since you decided to bring up Quentin Tarantino, I'm going to end with Quentin Tarantino.
Hmm.
Now, I have seen all of his movies. Crystal wrote a paper on them and the interconnected relationship that several of the films have with each other.
Hmm.
And so when we came up with this, I remember that she written that paper and I went and asked her as my resident expert. And she and I both confirmed that, according to Quentin Tarantino,
The
there are some
Donowitzes.
movies that exist in the same universe, and there are some movies that those characters go see,
Hmm.
which means that there are some movies that you watch that Vincent Vega and his brother would have gone to see had they survived.
Well,
Yeah, because
well,
both
I
of them
guess
died.
considering Vic Vega dies before any other Tarantino movie, I guess he never got to see them.
Yep.
Uh,
But these characters,
yeah.
so From Dusk Till Dawn and the Kill Bill movies would be movies that the characters from other films would go see. So it's a very unique shared universe. Now, what I want to know, and if I got the opportunity, maybe I'd be brave enough to ask, is if that's the case, where does Four Rooms fit within the universe of that? And most of that comes up into mind is because now the MCU has a Ted, and I desperately want him to dress like a bellboy. I want someone to cosplay Man Thing Ted in a bellboy uniform and then have someone, because it's like, what a night, Ted. Like, that's all I could think watching Werewolf by Night. But anyway, so that's my last one because I at least appreciate that there is an intentional shared universe. It's not just a last name type of thing, and oh, I just like the name. There are actual characters that are related, which puts the story of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction in the same place, if you will, not necessarily the same time. But then that means that these other films have these people in it.
Yeah,
So
and I think if I remember correctly, it all starts at Bastards. It all starts at Bastards because such a significant historical event takes place in a movie theater, the assassination of Hitler and the burning down of a number of members of the Third Reich,
mhm.
that theaters become such a huge commonplace thing in Tarantino's outer universe that's why so many inner movies are watched. That's why pop culture is so referenced, because that kind of changed the course of movie history as well, with the assassination of Hitler and Kino's being such an important staple of that fictional Tarantino's universe's whole deal.
That is a considering how late into his films, I forget which one Inglorious is, but how late it is in his list of 10 movies that he's planning to make. That is a beautiful retcon in the same way the MCU has retconned itself
Yeah,
repeatedly.
yeah,
All
and I
these
feel like
people
it
that are
was
pissed off, phase four isn't cohesive. Phase one wasn't either, assholes.
no.
It was introduced the Avengers.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like it was Inglorious Bastards is where he started peddling this idea of some movies are real, and some movies are fake real.
Kill
It's
Bill.
round about that time. It's Kill
It was
Bill.
Kill Bill. It was Kill Bill. I think it was it's some of what the characters say, some of what they reference. I think the grave that the bride is buried in, the name is a reference to a different character that's mentioned in something else. It's either the boots or the knife that she's wearing as its reference to somebody else. So there's some other little details. So this happens before Inglorious Bastards. And I also know this, even if my examples are wrong and I'm pulling from my memory poorly, I suffer from CRS, it happens. But Crystal wrote that paper after at least volume one had come out.
Mm,
Inglorious Bastards came out after
2009.
around when I was done with grad school or getting ready to finish grad school. So that's a significant leap in time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go.
There you go.
Excellent.
Indeed. This
Excellent.
was fun.
Absolute ridiculousness, nonsense, tomfoolery. I'm here for all of that.
Well, it's just, there's it's sort of like the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing. There are different ways to see how the movies we watch are connected. And sure, we can discuss our favorite scores, our favorite melee scenes, our favorite, sci-fi, whatever. But sometimes exploring interconnected themes or interconnected universes or just different ways in which these stories overlap in fun and clever ways, it's just it gets exciting. It's
It
just
does.
anyway.
It
Plus, it gives
does.
me an excuse to say Excelsior.
You never need an excuse to say it. So whenever you feel like saying that, throw it out there. You want to get down on some of these challenges?
Yes. Now, which one did you end up watching? Because there was some confusion on my end. You had some options, and
Real
then there was an
genius.
access issue. So you did Real Genius.
Yeah,
I
that's the one you gave me to do, right?
said that if you could access it, there would be this, or you could do this, or you could do this, and it would help and whatever. It doesn't matter. You did Real Genius. What do you think?
uh,
Do you want some popcorn?
I had popcorn. Leave it over there, and he just drops it in from porch. It is absolutely ridiculous. Real genius, directed by Martha Coolidge. It has so much. It feels like right at the same time that Zucker were doing airplanes. I think it's
Mhm.
right about the same time here. They feel like cousins of each other. The
No, no, that'll
goofiness
be top secret, but keep going.
the goofiness is there. Is just so many one liners. I think it is one of Val Kilmer should have just done comedy his entire career because he is so good in this movie, just tossing them out so casual with the one liners. If you're not familiar with this movie, it's about CIA trying to make a laser to do political assassinations from space. Of course,
I love that it's a comedy and that's how you're describing it. You're not wrong.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not wrong.
They instill everybody's favorite dickless 80s actor, William Atherton.
If you need a dick, you call William Atherton.
You call William, what's that guy doing these days? They insert him into the Pacific Technical University, where some of the big brains are to help make this laser, and where we are introduced to Mitch, who is our eyes that be introduced into this whole world. We introduced to Val Kilmer's Chris Knight, the one of the embodiments of the brilliant slacker type trope. And the building of this laser is pretty much the crux of this movie, and the foils along the way, the setbacks, and all that kind of stuff. You just kind of get to know these characters, and it is so fun, so funny. And I had 106 minutes, so it goes by quick. I had a blast watching this, and so many, like I said, great quotables all throughout this joint, man. And there's little goofy things like when they finally shoot the laser at the very end, and it's like it's explained that it's hotter than the sun, but yet his protective gear is a catcher's mask. Like it's gonna do anything. There's so much funny shit that's happening throughout this movie, man. I loved it, man.
And I talked about it on a recent episode because they did a 4K release. Sony put one out, and it's a really great 4K remaster. Looks fantastic, plays wonderfully. What I loved this movie as a kid. I was delighted that it holds up. But what I found even more fascinating is as an adult, I started noticing, like you led with that description of the CIA is trying to create a laser to murder people with. It begins with a song that talks about more or less betrayal. And the footage is the history of weaponry, the evolution of weaponry. And then and from there it goes to a presentation of the laser working, and then the cabal this background group of
Yep.
dudes that when the one black guy stands up and goes, "I'm sorry, y'all, this is a bad idea. I'm sorry, I can't be a part of this." The one dude in charge is like, "Well, we'll murder him," and another dude goes, "Excuse me? What do you wait? What?" Which adds some wonderful pressure because Atherton is never told about this, but we know that when his contact is breathing down his neck, it's because they're gonna fucking murder us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's real weight to everything that's happening, and yet everything that happens at the school is such absolute
Absolute
nonsense.
nonsense, man. Absolute silliness. And I loved every bit of all the silliness.
Hey,
Not
hey,
every
hey, can you taste this? Is this all right? Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I found it in the back of the fridge. It's yogurt. It's yogurt.
I think it's like the first time that Chris is introduced to Mitch, and he's talking about he found a way to reverse gravity, but he can't keep the change in his pocket. So, oh, I got it. Nudity. So many great jokes. They don't all land, but I respect the sheer number that they throw into this movie and the one-liners that are so casually tossed off all throughout. It's great.
The strangest thing happened to me last night. What was it? The dream where you're standing in sort of sun god robes, standing on top of the pyramid with 1,000 women naked. Oh no, where yeah, you're standing naked on a pillar with 1,000 women wearing sun god. No, fuck, I fucked up the quote. But anyway,
no, I'm the only
god
person that
damn it.
has that dream.
God damn it.
Nah, you
Why
can't
am I
win
the
all of
only
a
one that
sudden.
has that dream? I fucked up the quote. I
That's
love
all
that
right.
quote so much. I got in my way. That movie is so good. It is still so fucking funny.
It
Anyway,
is. It is. It is. That's a good one, sir. Good, solid 80s. 80s is the best era for comedy. I will say that until my dying day. And this is a good one, sir. Thank you.
you're very welcome. So if you eventually watch Top Secret, no, it is not of the same caliber, though it is led by Val Kilmer. It is to me hilarious. I don't know how well it's aged. I haven't watched it in a while, but it's Airplane but spy movies,
Sold.
which is how you get skeet surfing.
Okay.
Because
Fair
Val
enough.
Kilmer is an Elvis-like character who does a song called Skeet Surfing. Anyway, it's not funny. It's not funny.
Please tell me.
Familial betrayal in
Abs aren't
that.
funny.
What was that?
I said abs. They're not funny.
Not generally. You challenged me to watch The Northman,
Abs.
Robert Eggers' new film, which thank you, I didn't get the chance to see it when it was in theaters and the screeners were available, and I needed to watch it anyway because I'm sure whoever backed that one, I forget. Focus. There we go. Focus Features.
Focus Features.
That one they'll probably try to do it for something. It is a beautiful movie. It is a painful movie. Nicole Kidman's scene with Sarsgaard when she kisses him is the most startling, disquieting, uncomfortable, and yet amazing scene in possibly the whole movie, where like Nicole shows the fuck up.
Shows the fuck out.
And I couldn't help but be like, how? Because you see that if you're familiar with Hamlet, for those of you, okay, real quick, for those of you that aren't familiar, The Northman is an adaptation of the story of Amleth, of which Shakespeare adapted his story of Hamlet. So if you know anything about Hamlet, The Northman is sort of that, in which Amleth's father is murdered by his brother to take the throne.
Scar has his hyenas.
As you do.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, unlike the Lion King, Amleth's uncle doesn't eat the brother.
Just hold the skull.
Yeah. Didn't realize, that's what lions do when they dethrone. They will eat. So yeah, Lion King, Disney put that right out for us. None of us fucking realized it.
And I think it's fucking clever.
Scar just ate his brother.
It's clever, and they never mentioned it's just one of those, like I said earlier, if you know type joints.
But that scene is often played in various presentations of Hamlet. That scene when Amleth confronts his mother, thinking that she's in danger, and we sort of get a sense of her complicity and everything. With the Northman, it's very clear. She never loved the father. She was a slave herself. He abused her and he didn't give a shit and blah, blah, blah. which she alludes to the fact that he was never interested in her sexually. It was just to have children. Um, but this scene is played in such a way that it is so disturbing and probably one of the best performances. And I think Glenn Close was in the Mel Gibson version, and that was pretty fantastic too. So this I think surpasses that. I
It's almost enough for me to forgive her for those AMC commercials.
which I've still not seen, but how else is she supposed to like refuel her soul if not to steal everyone else's energy from the movie theater?
Now we got a
Uh
sequel coming soon. They've already announced. I was like, all right,
shit, now I got to see the first one if I'm going to understand the sequel.
time to become a regal man.
I always thought you were. I always thought you were pretty regal.
Oh, stop! Get out.
Nope. It's us now. Wendell and Wild. Anyway, just gonna keep. I'm done. I'm done. That was terrible. But anyway, I am reticent to say this is my first Eggers film. I own The Witch because it was on sale for $5 and I've heard such great things and I still have yet to see it. And The Lighthouse, for whatever reason, I did not get to. And this is the perfect month for me to check that out, and I still haven't seen it. But the cinematography is fantastic. I love the choices that are made. This is a film which unfortunately feels its length at times, but needs its length. And honestly, strange as it might seem, Anya Taylor-Joy, who I love as an actor, she is very versatile with what she can do. I know that this is what her second film with Eggers, right?
Yeah, the Vivitch in this.
In this, the way that he captures her from a different director might have been very male gazy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some specificity with the direction that she is never vulnerable physically unless we're talking about strength. She's fighting somebody off or something like that. But in terms of a film that is sexual in a lot of different ways, she is never presented as a sexual object, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I found that surprising because a different director would have gone in a different way with what her character does in the film and what she comes to represent as the continuation of Amleth's line. The respect that was showed to her as a character. I mean, I love the fact that when she's fighting off the uncle, because he doesn't mind blood, he says. She's like, I'm on my period. She's like, oh, really? Yeah. She just reaches in and slathers it on his face, at which point he's like, okay, fuck you. I can't handle you.
That was her idea, by the way.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because it just goes to show where that level of certain men's comfort and discomfort is. And just that scene. But I loved how you could tell what was happening, but shot at a distance so that it was tasteful. It wasn't leery. Mm-hmm. And there are other directors that would do stuff like that, and it would come across. Maybe I'm just too in my head about it because the whole Paul Verhoeven Basic Instinct thing, where he didn't tell Sharon Stone about that. But there's some stuff that I've watched recently which has gotten me paying attention to how men versus women are portrayed on film. And certainly Sarsgaard was the one who's given more of the sexy scenes, as it were. But considering the work he put in to look that way, I mean, you put it on camera. But it is a solid film. I would absolutely recommend it. Thank you for the challenge.
Not a problem. I still have some issues with the pacing. I think they're in that village for far too long. I'm not sure why it took them so long to get to the point they get to where they kind of team up and he's coming at them physically and she's coming at them mentally. I'm like, yeah, y'all could have done this like night 2 and been done with this shit. But
there had to be rapport, I think, because he was part of the raiding party that made her a slave.
Yeah. But
I love that introduction, by the way. Unless you catch that it's her, because the camera's following him. Mm-hmm. When he walks this way, we see that they're separating people and she's trying to protect a little kid.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know it was her, you wouldn't know that it was her, type of deal. And I love that. so many directors would have zoomed right in, make sure that we see that it's her, come back out. No, but the way that Eggers directs it was just
Bobby Eggs, man. Bobby Eggs knows how to make a movie. I've been trying to tell people for I don't know how long. Get on your Bobby Eggs. That's it, man, for this episode of The Seattle Now. We'll be back with 76
that is in fact how
sometime.
the numbers work.
That is how numbers work.
75 ending, we have to follow it up with 76.
I have reliable sources that tell me that 76 is after 75. Yeah, that is it, man. You got anything before you wrap this bad boy up?
I do not, except to say that we are coming up to award season. So you're going to be hearing about all kinds of movies. It is a great time of year when you're a critic because you get a lot more opportunities to check stuff out. It is also a terrible opportunity as a critic because you have to watch so many movies if you haven't seen them already.
Mm-hmm.
I've been mainlining documentaries on I haven't had a free night because I've just been mainlining documentaries. I got my bivalent booster last Friday, so as a just in case, I didn't schedule myself to work. So instead, I watched Moon Age Daydream, which let me tell you something. If you think you're going to trip, maybe not watch. It's a David Bowie documentary, but beautiful. It was
Well,
beautiful.
that sounds like a good
Then
Saturday night to me.
actually, it was quite good. And then the next morning, I did two other musical documentaries.
Did you do the Louis Armstrong
So
joint?
what was that?
You do that Louis Armstrong joint?
No, not yet. I did two Disney documentaries, one called Misha, which I thought was supposed to be out by now, but I think they've moved the date around a little bit. And then If These Walls Could Sing, about Abbey Road, that comes out in November.
No, yeah.
Would definitely recommend the Abbey Road one, whether you are, don't think of it as a Beatles documentary, those of you that only associate Beatles with Abbey Road. The things that you find out about that studio, like there's some stuff that was just, I had no fucking clue. And it was so neat to discover. And particularly as film fans, those of you that like, wow, I can picture him, John Williams. Wow, I could not. But
Yeah,
hearing about his connection to Abbey Road,
yeah.
where he's done quite a few scores, recorded quite a few, was really impressive. So, it's a great time of year for that. There's going to be plenty more. I'm about to cover the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. I've already covered one film, about to have a review for that drop Saturday morning. So if you want to know about obscure shit, hard to find shit, or widely accessible shit, go to Elements of Madness. We got it all.
There you go. There you go. Got a little bit of everything in there. That's it for this episode, man. We'll be back a couple weeks with some more goodness for you. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one.
Evil dies tonight.